Unscripted.
There's a stark contrast between what Microsoft and Sony are doing. There's never been more evident than what David Jaffe did with an interview with a former developer, the former head of Ben Studios, who actually dropped a lot of truth bombs. And I think that what he did also was kind of shut some people up. When it comes down to what people are actually doing with these consoles and in terms of the games themselves, everybody has some kind of opinion. I have an opinion, you have an opinion, these other ass buckets have an opinion, basically, and that's just the world we live in. We all have these different outlets that we can kind of let each other know what we think, and that's great in a way, I guess. But in another way, it's also pretty crappy because so many of us probably shouldn't be wasting our time giving crummy opinions. And one of the opinions that I see everywhere is that Game Pass is just the best thing ever. And I know Jaffe loves Game Pass, and I know nothing against it. Like, listen, I think Game Pass is good for a certain type of thing. I'm not sold on Game Pass being 100% great for developers, and I'm not sold on Game Pass being like something that's future-proof or that I particularly want to see. There's lots of reasons why. Like, nonetheless, it's there, and we're going to see competitors for it, and we're going to see other situations where people kind of look at it and go, well, is this better than game ownership or whatever? That's what these companies want. You have to be pretty blind to not understand that these companies want us to not own these games. They want us to normalize not owning games. They want us to normalize, renting our games and having them be able to be taken away from us at any given time. That's exactly what's going on. We can sit there and sugarcoat it all we want, but games and movies and shows are completely different than each other. Right? Like, I know we tried to compare them a lot, and we tried to go, well, Game Pass is the Netflix of this, right? But at the end of the day, guess what? Game Pass is good for a certain type of gamer, but it's also, and it's worked on me. It's worked on me, so I'm the first to admit it can be this kind of deceitful little devil that kind of tugs on your shoulder, right? Like, I was going to get not Days Gone, I was going to get Outriders on the PlayStation 5, and the fact that I already have a free for me a ticket to Game Pass till almost 2023, I just picked it up there. I paid $1 to convert all my remaining gold into Xbox Live Game Pass Ultimate. So again, I understand that kind of draw there, and to me, like, I'm certainly not well off at all, but I don't mind buying games, and I think that most people kind of feel that way the same way as I do. Now, you have the Days Gone former the head of that, and he's actually made a lot of sense, and he makes a ton of sense in terms of what he's talking about with Xbox and with PlayStation and things like that. Not only is he really big on, hey, you know what, Metacritic score really pretty much matters, but he also was very much on board with talking about how if you didn't buy, an exclusive game at launch, then, don't be pissed off when you don't get a sequel. And I think that kind of says it all. He says, don't complain if there's no sequel if you didn't buy it at full price. John Garvin also says that his departure from Ben Studio was based on personality, not performance. The creative director and writer of Days Gone has said that players should buy games at full price if they like them, instead of waiting for them to go on sale or to be given away as part of a service like PlayStation Plus, obviously, presumably as well, Game Pass and things like that. Was speaking to game designer David Jaffe on Jaffe's YouTube channel when he was asked if he's heard anything about meaningful uptick of engagement with Days Gone since the game was added to the PlayStation Plus collection on PS5, and he said, I quote, "I do have an opinion on something that your audience may find of interest, and it might piss some of them off. If you love a game, buy it at effing full price. I can't tell you how many times I've seen gamers say, yeah, I got that on sale, I got that through PlayStation Plus, whatever. But how do you know you love a game until you played it?" Jaffe responded. "I'm just saying," replied Garvin, "you don't. But don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch. If it's like God of War got whatever number of million sales at launch, and Days Gone didn't. I'm just speaking for me personally as a developer. I don't work for Sony. I don't know what the numbers are. I can't tell you when we're doing Siphon Filter Dark Mirror on PSP, we got so effed on Dark Mirror because piracy was a thing, and Sony wasn't really caught up on what piracy was doing to sales. And we should show them torrents on a torrent site that had 200,000 copies of Dark Mirror being downloaded, if I remember right. The numbers could be wrong, but regardless, I was pissed about it then. I was like, this is money out of my pocket. So I think the uptick in engagement with the game is not as important as did you buy the game at full price, because if you did, then that's supporting the developers directly. Elsewhere in the 4-hour interview, Garvin confirms that his departure from Bend Studios was based on his personality rather than anything to do with performance of Days Gone or any potential sequel talks. After being asked directly by Jaffe if he was fired, Garvin replied, "It was hard, long development, 6 years, and I worked 6 years of crunch. And here's the thing, I love working crunch. I love what I do. So it's not that big a deal, but that doesn't mean it's good for me. So the last 2 years I've actually been away from the studio have been a blessing. I've been able to get up to do what I want to do. I've written 3 books, and it's just a different thing. When you're in development, it's nonstop pressure and milestones and profitability and people management. And to be honest, at the end of the day, when it comes down to this, we had a few heated arguments over the last year or so, and I would end up yelling and saying something like, just give me a package so I can get out of here, or something like that. And when I was with just Chris Reese in a very small studio, that kind of heatedness was fine. But by the time you get a 100-person studio, you can't have one of the directors losing their temper, and I'm not a great people person anyway, and it's not like they didn't try. I was put through the training a couple of times, and hey, you go out to lunch with people more and better director, and dude, I kind of sucked at all that. Later in the interview, Jaffe seems to clarify this by asking, me reading between the lines would suggest that you were fired from Ben because you were a disruptive personality and that you worked with a smaller team and a medium-sized team. But as the budgets and the stakes got higher and the number of people that had to work on the team got bigger, that personality, at least according to the company, was no longer the right fit. Would you agree with that? And definitely was Garvin's reply. So Days Gone 2 game director Jeff Ross also appeared on Jaffe's show earlier and was talking about some different things along the lines of what was going on. But we see a stark contrast. So he might not be privy to what is going on behind the scenes with Microsoft and paying developers for putting games in there. But you also have to think about this way. Right now, Microsoft has an all-time high trying to attract as many developers as they possibly can to the platform, to Game Pass and things like that. Probably overpaying what's actually going to be the norm at some particular point. So you get everybody used to this. You get some developers who love and talk nothing but good things about Game Pass, and then, who knows, years from now, the deals might not be as good or they might not be as plentiful when, that's the only option for some of these developers. And so I do feel like we're starting to see, like, at least some developers go, if you love a game, support it, buy it at launch. Another kind of hole in Microsoft's thing, and a lot of people's thing, is this, right? Because a lot of people don't like Metacritic score, and I get that. But even John Garvin says Metacritic score is everything to Sony. The news that a pitch for Days Gone 2 had been rejected by Sony prompted David Jaffe, the game designer noted for creating God of War and Twisted Metal, to host video game interviews with Days Gone directors on his channel. Last week he had Jeff Ross and he had John Garvin on the other day. Garvin revealed to have left Sony Bend merely days after the game's release in April 2019. When Jaffe asked how he took the first wave of Days Gone reviews, Garvin replied, "I took it hard, to be honest, because again, this is just the reality of Sony. Metacritic score is everything. If you're the creative director on a franchise and your game is coming out to a 70, you're not going to be the creative director of that franchise very long." So Sony has a very big string of critically acclaimed game releases with the likes of Uncharted, The Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Spider-Man Dreams, and most recently Ghost of Tsushima. On the other hand, there's evidence Sony might actually be looking for both outstanding critical acclaim and commercial success nowadays. For example, Japan Studios' Gravity Rush 2 had an average Metacritic score of 80, but didn't really sell well, and that was the last game ever made by Team Gravity. Japan Studio as a whole was essentially shut down and will now focus on supporting Asobi Team, the makers of Astrobot Rescue Mission and Astro's Playroom, as confirmed by Sony earlier in the month. Days Gone may not have had high critical acclaim, but they did enjoy it on this particular situation, and there's actually a petition, which I did cover that, which got over 25,000. But again, this game sold over 5 million copies, right? It did get lower review scores, but again, that could be blamed totally on what Sony was doing with the lack of a day one patch, and they sent out the game early. But again, you see the stark differences where A lot of these developers are going after great Metacritic scores because Metacritic scores matter, right? Like they do. Honestly, we could sit there and pretend all day that they don't, but they 100% matter. And developers getting the most out of what these companies are doing, I think, also matters. So, this is very interesting to see that it's a different approach and it's a different take on this than what Microsoft has. Which take is right? They might both be right, is the thing, but we don't really know for sure yet. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this works out. I can't wait to see how it works out, and I love hearing from you guys. I am kind of in the middle of a little bit of a hiatus, but I recorded some stuff, and just kind of uploaded it for the hell of it, and I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback. Crapgamer, out.
Unscripted.